Fathers podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. If you are going through the family law court process, particularly as a father, then this podcast may be relevant to what you may experience. Some things we discuss in these episodes may be triggering, and if you suffer from any form of mental health related conditions or subject to domestic or family violence and need any assistance, then please call 1-800-RESPECT and Lifeline. The views and experiences discussed by people on our show are not necessarily the views and opinions of Broken Fathers podcast or their guest speakers. We strongly advise you seek your own independent legal and professional advice, as the Broken Fathers podcast will not be liable, answerable, or accountable for any loss or damage or litigation resulting from discussions on our platform. Right, this podcast is now in session. Hold on, guys. The judge is running late to court. So whilst we wait, I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our platinum sponsor, Straight Up Construction. At Straight Up Construction, they take pride in delivering high-end work across every trade. From new builds to renovations, no job is too big or too small. Director Luke Miller and his dedicated team tackle every project with integrity, hard work, honesty, and a commitment to delivering superior quality results every time. Straight Up Construction is built on the belief that strong foundations matter just as much in the bones of a home as they do in the heart of one. Families should stand strong, and every loving parent should maintain their right to be a part of their children's lives. Straight Up Construction believes that in true Aussie spirit, everyone deserves a fair go. That's why we're proud to have Straight Up Construction as our platinum sponsor. With their support, we continue to produce the Broken Fathers podcast and shine a light on the struggles of men who have been let down by the system. Good morning, listeners and viewers, and welcome back to the Broken Fathers podcast, Australia's first and only podcast dedicated to addressing family court issues from the perspective of fathers. I'm your host, Percy. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of Australia's most painful, most personal legal battlefield, the family court system. Now, if you've been through it, you already know the damage it can do, not just to fathers, but to children, families, and lives. Today, we're speaking with someone who's not only seen the pain, but spoken about it in Parliament, on national television, and in the face of fierce opposition. She's a federal senator, the founder of One Nation, and one of the few politicians who's dared to publicly call the family court system for what many of us know it to be, which is broken. Welcome to the podcast, Senator Pauline Hanson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me on. And it's a very important issue, very, very dear to my heart. It has been for many years, actually nearly 3 decades.
I appreciate that, and a lot of all the fathers out there do too.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming down on your busy schedule. A lot of my podcasts go for 3-4 hours. I know you don't have that time in the day. Normally, I start off for all my guests, to get a little bit to know about them and where they grew up and what life was like. But I think we'll just skip that and just crack on straight into questions, if you don't mind, because I know a lot of the fathers out there will be keen to hear some of these questions.
By all means, but we may expand, and I'll tell you a bit of my history and why I am passionate about this and what I've seen. So let's just start with some questions and where we go from there.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, my first question. You've been vocal about fathers' rights and how broken the family court system is for some time now. How did you come about being so passionate about this topic?
Well, actually, it came to my attention, although I'd been through the family law court system myself, not such as having solicitors and lawyers involved, because that happened in the 1980s when I split from my husband. At that time, it was about 1987. Prior to that, I had my first marriage that split up in the 70s, but the father of the kids, or my husband at the time, just walked out, wasn't interested in the children. So I raised the 2 kids as a single mother. At 21 years of age, I had 2 children, youngest one at 6 months old. So I had to provide and look after them. Didn't get 1 cent out of him in all those years. And my oldest one now is 54. So it has been a battle. Then my second marriage, that broke down. My youngest one was 2.5. I had another 2 children to my second marriage. So I went through a battle of trying to, get my husband interested in wanting to spend time with the children. And it wasn't a big issue over the property settlement because I walked out and left the house and the business. We ran a plumbing business together, so I didn't touch that at all. And, I was flat out getting $20 a week out of him for each child.
Yeah, wow.
And that I had to keep following up for him to pay that amount. So I just believe in being fair. And not only that, my main issue was the children needed to see their father. It was very important. Children have to have that connection with both parents. So anyway, then when I got into federal politics in 1996, it was a huge issue, one of the biggest issues that came across my desk. And just reading these letters, people ringing my office, about the family law matters, even back then. And I think that's why I've been passionate about it, having been through it. And of course, since then, I've had two of my own sons go through the court system. And I have realised how unfair it is and how the system is broken.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine the domino effect that had on you watching your son go through it, because I know my mum watched me go through it and it broke them too. The court system has that domino effect. I take my
pain, you look, Jared, it's the pain and anguish, all right? You're not on the journey by yourself. It's your whole immediate family, whether it be your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, your family, mum and dad, they hate seeing the pain that you're going through. And to see some of these fathers, what they go through, I know what my kids went through. They were just in so much pain because all they wanted to do was see their little child, see their baby, have time with them, raise the kids. And of course, you can understand, my children went through without a father. And my child, the second one, he had a horrible, horrible stepfather, right? And the way he was treated. And of course, they then have wanted to bond to their own children. And to go through a marriage breakup and feel that they've lost that, what they didn't have themselves, they've lost it with their own children. That's why they're dedicated fathers. That's why they absolutely love their children to death, because they never had it.
Yeah.
And that's the real shame about it. So you have to understand the history, why it hits some harder than others. Yeah. And because there's so many broken marriages, and not all those step parents out there, whether they be the mother or the father, are not good parents to those stepchildren. And that's why there should be the bond with those parents. This is not just about the parents. It's about the children. And that's my argument about all this. Children have a right to be with their parents. And I'm sick of the courts, and I'm sick of these parents out there who want to stop them from seeing, because you've had a breakup with the child's father or mother. You want to take out your nastiness. You want to be abusive. You want to be hurtful. You want to just take control because of what you feel's happened to you. Accept it as a marriage breakdown. Get on with your life, but don't use the children as pawns against the parent.
Yeah, using the child as a dangling carrot.
Yeah.
I remember when me and my ex split, the first thing she did was she called my mother and she said, "I'm going to destroy your son's life," and just hung up. And that's exactly what she did. And, the family court system, which I refer to as the negative vortex, I was so gobsmacked. I was sitting in court, and I'm just looking around saying, all I'm asking is to be in my daughter's life. Am I asking too much? Like, I'm just asking for 1 extra hour in my daughter's life.
You have a right, and you have a right to do it. And I back you all the way. And you know what? Just because I'm a female, the females out there, the feminists and all these other ones who jumped on the bandwagon, the nasty people out there, they all think, what the hell am I doing? And because I may question and I bring up these facts, they think that, oh, well, she shouldn't be saying this. I've, all people, being a female, I'm standing up for those men. It's been my sons, my brothers, it's been my, family. I'm not anti-male. I've had a fantastic father. I've had great brothers. I've got, men in my life, that I'm so proud of. And I'm so proud of my sons as well. And I'm not going to take a negative attitude because I've had a marriage breakup twice, and the way they've treated their own children. I'm not going to take that out on other men. And why would I? I'm not joining this Me Too movement. I'm sick and tired of it. People actually have to understand, because I'll tell these women out there, you know what you're doing? You're treating your own children, your ex this way. Well, I tell you what, you reap what you sow, because in time, it may be your sons going through that breakup. Your sons are going to be denied the right to see their children. And then you may be able to understand it from a grandmother's point of view that you won't see your grandchildren either.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that too. I had a mother on recently, Tracy McMillan. She's a lawyer and a barrister in the family court over 20 years. And I just hit her with a straight question off the top. I said, listen, do you think the family court system is favoured, one-sided, or, biased in favour of the mothers or females? And she said, absolutely it is,
Of course it is.
And that's someone that's been practicing over 20 years in the family court. She's a mother with kids, and I always say my podcast isn't trying to create a gender divide. Yes, it's about fathers been through the family court. My mum's a beautiful mother. My partner's a beautiful mother. There's amazing mothers out there, but there's
Jared, I don't see your podcast. If I thought it was being divisive and that type of thing, you wouldn't have me here.
yeah,
I see it as a broken system, and it's leaning towards the women out there because the feminist groups and organisations, government legislation that is favouring women, and you're right, because there was David Collier, who was actually a family law judge in Parramatta, Sydney, for 14 years. In 2014, when he actually got out of, he said the evidence that came before the courts, he said there was a lot of false evidence given of domestic violence and sexual abuse. He said, I knew they were lying, the perjury that's committed. What I get angry about, if these judges knew that was the case, then why isn't it charges laid against this? And this is what I would change. I would change that you lied in the courts, proven to be a lie. You will then be taken, you'll be charged.
I've seen a few articles from retired family court judges saying that too. But why aren't any of those judges in it saying why they're practicing? Is it because, like, do you feel any judge would say that while they're actually in the job, or do you feel they're only comfortable saying it once they've retired? Because
it appears that way. Some have only said it after they've
After
retired.
retired.
Yes, because they may not be given the cases. And probably
okay.
in a lot of ways too, to keep them in the court because they can see the truth. So then they might make a fair judgment rather than the ones that are so leaning against the men that, maybe it's just that they have to deal with what they've got and try and give the best outcome for both sides,
Yeah.
both parents, and to do with the child.
Yeah.
And, when I see legislation and I spoke, and I got the family law inquiry up, okay, the joint houses. And we had 10 from the lower house and the upper house in the Senate inquiry. And this happened just prior. We started it just prior to, I think it was 2019, then COVID hit. And then we had to do it online. But we did get around the country. And of that 10, only 3 of us, members of parliament, had been through marriage breakup. And one of the male, and this was Graham Perrott, and I remember him saying, oh, well, I said, men should have a right to care for the children as well. He said, no. He said, women make better parents. I said, I disagree with you there. I said, have you ever been through it yourself? And he said, no, I haven't. And I said, well, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I said, I've got sons that are fantastic fathers to the children. They do everything, feed, bath, change the clothes, everything. And I said, you can't tell me that women make better parents. So I said, that's not right. Now, only 3 of us had been through, a divorce.
Yeah.
This whole system, the others didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah.
And then you listen to some of these, Diana Bryant. I couldn't believe when you raised about perjury in the courts. You know what she said? Oh, they believe that was the truth when they give their evidence. And that's the attitude. That's what you're dealing with. And then you have the legal profession who sees the dollars clicking over, that they keep going. It goes on and on and on.
The lawyers are the winners.
Oh, Jared, I feel so much for both sides out there, and I've heard from women as well that it hasn't been fair on them at all.
Yeah. Hey guys, just a quick shout out to our gold sponsors. MCH Industries are a mining maintenance specialist company supplying solutions to the coal mining industry in the Bowen Basin and regional New South Wales. They supply superintendents, supervisors, leading hands, diesel fitters, tyre fitters, auto electricians, HV electricians, and trade assistants to assist. The mining one-stop shop for mechanical trades. MCH Industries are always looking for good blokes to jump on the team, so check out their Instagram for more details. And are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? There's only one name that's been leading the way for over 123 years, Ray White. Ray White isn't just another real estate brand. It's a family business built on ambition, trust, and leadership. Today, it stands as the largest real estate group in Australasia, connecting people with homes and investments across the country. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or looking for that perfect home, Ray White is committed to delivering authentic, local expertise. Because real estate isn't just about properties, it's about people, communities, and futures. And when it comes to trusted leadership, meet Alex Illian, an ex-Army veteran turned dedicated real estate agent. Alex knows what it means to serve, to strategize, and to get the job done. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or just have questions, Alex is here to guide you every step of the way, servicing the Geelong, Bellarine, and Surf Coast areas. Ray White, The name you can trust in real estate.
You've long called the family law system broken. Do you believe the Family Court of Australia is institutionally biased against fathers? If so, what's the single biggest legal reform you'd push through tomorrow if you had the power?
Look, it is. I do think it is broken because we've got too many woke people in Parliament now, and it's pushing women's rights. But with comes women's rights, you've got to have women's responsibilities. And like I said before, the people that are suffering out of this is the children, okay? And it's been used as pawn against the children. I believe that if you actually, you've got to wind back a lot of issues to do with the family law court. And what I would say is child support.
Yeah.
Go after the child support. A lot of people see it as a cash cow and they don't want to give up custody of the children because they're making more money out of it, especially a lot of these guys who are on, good money working in the mining sector or good jobs, construction jobs, that type of thing. They're making good money. So the fact is it's a cash cow. There's no responsibility that they have. So they hand it over. And I'm hearing all the time, oh, she's just bought a new car or she's gone for a trip. How do we know that money's been spent on the child?
Yep.
I personally have said there should be a bank account set up. The money goes in the bank account and that should be receipted where that money's spent for the child, on the child. I reckon you actually rein in child support and what they're paying for it. That would sort of put a lot of people back in their box. No, no, look, they can have the children this weekend. I don't need the children. So I think that's a big thing. Perjury is another one as well, needs to be addressed, the lies. And I'd like to see any allegations to domestic violence in a relationship must be go before a magistrate's court, or it should be sorted out in another court prior to it and found whether it's the truth or whether it's lies before it's been brought to the family court. And no allegations are allowed to be brought up with domestic violence in the family court if it hasn't been proven to be true or false in another court.
I guess the only downside for that would be is if it had to get sorted out in the magistrate court before family court, probably because they're so backlogged as well. Like, let's just say there's a DVO on me, for example, and that might take 18 months to sort out before we can enter family court. And if she's put my daughter's name on the DVO, then I have to wait that 18 months to sort of sort it out. Because that's
but you're doing it now anyway. In before the family law courts anyway, you're not allowed to see your child if there's a domestic violence order. So you should be able to still see your child unless there's evidence of it, proven evidence. We cannot have false allegations. Do you know that domestic violence takes up about 75% of police officers' time now? Yeah. And that's all they're dealing with. And the police have had a gutful of it. Yeah. They're sick and tired of it because of the reports that they have to make. And that's why we're not dealing with real crime out there. The whole thing needs to be wound back. I fear for those people that have actually faced domestic violence, those men and women, men as well, that have lost their lives through domestic violence. And it is wrong, and I feel for those families that have lost a loved one because of it. But it's just sheer frustration a whole lot. And you ask the question, why is there murders in domestic violence? Is it because, the sheer frustration that people are having? Is it through jealousy that they can't, see their children?
Can't see their kids for a long time.
Not jealousy, but someone else moved on. There's a lot of things that we have not debated to get to the guts of the matter of why this is happening. And just don't blame men. Find out why. Find out why women also are actually murdering their partners and actually murdering their children. That's another topic.
Yeah, podcast in itself, that even the child support, real quick, the powers that child support have. I've had fathers on that have can't leave the country. They've had department prohibition orders on them. I think they're called DPOs. Yeah.
And even with guns, if you get a DVO, then you have guns.
Yes.
If you have a blue card, then police can lose their jobs. You can lose jobs over it with the domestic violence order. It's really horrendous.
Real quick, I've had a few police message me saying, thank you so much for this podcast. We're actually sick of dealing with this DV crap like this from them. Like, because we know, yes, it's general, but we know we're rocking up to a house and we're going to destroy this father's house because it's all crap, and he's gonna lose his job or can't see his kids, or going to take his weapons off him, and we know it's crap. And one guy actually told me he left his job because of it. He goes, I just couldn't do it anymore. He just so.
What annoys me is that the man's he's at fault. So the man's carted out of the house and he's got to go and find somewhere else to go and live. And it's not, what's fair here? Or if there's a breakup now. So the women are given $5,000 to go and, start up a new life. That's another thing too.
Yeah, I've got that question later on. Yeah, it's real hard. Like I got belted by my ex all on CCTV footage, Uber footage, and I'm mean enough to say it. But the police saw me as a heavily tattooed war veteran, and didn't really take it serious. Had to go to court once they saw the footage. Like, oh, okay, but yeah, it's just we'll get to that question another time. Third question: why do you think so many politicians have failed to act on the repeated recommendations for the family court reform, particularly around the shared custody and false allegations?
Again, a lot of politicians are gutless to say or do anything. They don't want to be seen standing out away. But also, a lot of the politicians have to follow the line of their leaders. Okay, so if that's your policy on family law matters, then you will not say anything. You will keep quiet. Because this is what the backbenchers of the major political parties are. You can't speak out against it, especially Labor. Labor will not. Labor, not one backbencher in the Labor Party or member of the Labor Party spoke out against The Voice. Not one has spoken out against gender dysphoria or the damage that's been done to our kids out there. Not one. So they have to follow the party line. Or they may think differently, but they won't. And then you've got the ones that think, oh no, it's too big an issue. I'm not going to stand out there. I said it and I stood out there. Well, they came after me, right? Oh, look, I've been there before. So what? I couldn't care less. I'll say what I want to say and I'll speak the truth.
What are some other reasons why some politicians don't speak about it in general? Is it because they don't want to go against the grain? They rather just be comfortable and stay in their spot?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't want to stand out.
Yeah.
And they haven't got
flying under the radar.
They haven't got the guts to actually stand up and combat it and stand up against these activists that are out there pushing for the females' issues and who are just, a lot of them, I believe, just can't stand men.
Yeah.
And they want to control everything.
Yeah.
And they're gutless. I can't stand them.
Yeah, same. Fourth question: the Broken Fathers podcast has exposed consistent patterns of parental alienation, DVO misuse, and men taking their lives in despair. Do you believe the current family violence system is being misused as a legal weapon?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, same.
Most definitely it is. And that's why the false allegations. But we've allowed it to go on and fester because we don't pull them up for perjury. I think there's only one in Western Australia that's been charged with perjury. Might be two.
Yeah. I had Tracy McMillan, the lawyer, barrister on 2 days ago, and I asked her because I just assumed perjury wasn't in. She goes, no, perjury is in. The family court system don't use it. Like they don't want to touch it. Like I think she said in the criminal system they do. But the family court they just don't want to use it.
The judge has to refer it as a perjury, and they don't.
Yeah.
So there are laws there, but I think it's only been used once. If memory
I think she said
serves me
something like
correct.
that too.
Yeah, Western Australia.
Okay.
Perjury. So no, they don't, and they're reluctant to do it, and that's a big problem that we have. Unless we start using it, these people have been found to
set someone as an example.
Court, we've got to deal with it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's another thing I'd change.
And I want to know what the process. I've been wanting to get a policeman on. I've got one. I've got a few that want to come on, but they said, well, we'll lose our job because they're still serving.
Yeah.
You know? But I want to know what the process is as a policeman, QPS officer. If someone comes in and says XYZ, I've got no evidence, but here's some allegations. Like, what do the police have the powers to go? No, there's no evidence, or the police obliged to go? Well, they're hearsay allegations. We have to follow.
Right. My understanding is they'll get a call out to a domestic violence. They will actually go into the house. If they see that there's a chair overturned or there's anything smashed, glass smashed or anything like that, it then has to be reported as domestic violence. So they have to put in a report to it. It depends on the circumstances, how they evidence that they collect at the time, and whether they will lay charges or escort the person out of there. It depends on the circumstance of.
I've got an ex-QPS officer coming on soon. He's been medically discharged, but he's been through the family court system too. But I asked him, I asked the same question: what powers do you have? And he said, "Listen," and these are his words. He said, as QPS officers, we are trained when we arrive on scene, regardless of who we think the perpetrator victim is, we are trained to take them our way as the perpetrator.
Yep.
And I think that makes sense because Bettina Arndt did an article and she had 2 policemen, but they covered their face, female and male officer, pardon. And she said she rocked up to the scene. The female, the mother, had called the police saying that she was the victim. They did assessment and said, no, you're the perpetrator, and took her away. But then the police officer got in trouble by her OIC and said, why did you bring her back? And she said, I did assessment. She was the perpetrator.
They will target the male first because they want to leave the mother usually in the house with the children because if there's children, so they'll leave the female and best to get the male out of there and so the children have their own surroundings.
Yeah. Question number 5. You've said publicly that you receive letters and calls from fathers who are suicidal. In your view, why is the crisis still treated as a fringe issue?
I don't think they want to face up to fact and what is happening. It's just, they're not. That shows how disconnected they are, that they really don't understand what is happening. It's all right for the media and politicians, everyone to go on, especially the Greens, about there's been a murder of a female to do with domestic violence, but there's nothing about men suiciding. Yeah. Why are they suiciding? It's not only just, I think there's about 7 males a day that suicide compared to 1 female. Yeah. And it could be for a range of issues. I'm not saying it's just domestic violence or whether it's family breakup. But the whole fact is that you've got a lot of farmers that suicide as well, because on the land and what's happening to them, or people from defence forces, there are a lot of those
absolutely
suiciding as well. And I know from defence personnel, they've been away fighting for their country and they come back and then go through a family split up and lose rights to see their children. And that really hits them hard, especially defence personnel. I find it does. Look, I went to twice. I have been there maybe 3 times, twice that I'm aware of, out there on the lawns of Parliament.
Yeah, they put the boots?
Yes.
Yeah.
2,400 boots.
Yeah.
Single boots, not pairs. 2,400 single boots and thongs and shoes and everything from men and boys that have suicided in a year. And it just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
And did I see many other politicians out there? No. So they haven't got this connection. I'm sure some of them must go through with their own family and understand it. And that's why I can't understand. Why can't you connect with this? Why can't you see the issues that is happening? Why won't you make the decisions? Why won't you stand up and find what's fair right across the board? I'm not going to go out there and make legislation that's going to be leaning towards the male or leaning towards the female. You do it what is fair. And at the end of the day, I'll come back to it. It's about the children. And if you're not a fair parent and to your children, and look at the best interests of the child, you won't be with them. But don't deny that parent the right just because allegations made against you or just because you're a male.
Real quick on the law, I've got a mate that goes there, and I think at a while back it was about 6 men a day. I'm sure the stat sort of varies here and there, but me and a gentleman called Jimmy Judge, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's just eating contest machine guy. He tried to raise awareness. We got 42 cheeseburgers at McDonald's and tried our best to eat them under 42 minutes, but I've come up short. The family court always says, well, they're saying is they're doing best for what's best for the children. I don't see it. I don't see the court system doing what's best for the children, because when you're in there, and like one thing I got told from the very start, my daughter was 6 months old when we split. And my lawyer told me before we filed the paper, he goes, listen, just before we file it, there's no turning back. I said, that's fine. I'm here. I'm fighting for my daughter. He goes, no, I don't expect you to understand this, but you're going to be behind the 8 ball from the get-go because you're a male. And in my state of mind, I was like, mate, it's fine.
And the child is as young as they are, so they don't believe that you have the ability to look after a 6-month-old child. I'm like,
by biological advantage. And he said, listen, because your daughter's under the age of 2, this is classed as the nurturing phase. So off the bat, you're just going to be disadvantaged biologically. But I was just like, whatever, mate. And as soon as we filed it, of course, allegations left, right, and center. And my daughter wasn't breastfeeding. My ex wasn't breastfeeding at the time. But 4 months later, when my daughter was 9 months and we were back in court, all of a sudden she was breastfeeding again because she had to tell them our daughter couldn't be away from her for more than 2 hours. She had to breastfeed, so I could only get her for 1 hour every Sunday. Anyway. I don't want to go down a path. We'll keep going to questions. If a royal commission in the family court was announced tomorrow, what are the 3 things that you want investigated, and who do you think would try to block it?
Women's groups and organisations, feminist organisations, the domestic violence organisations that are purely set up for females, what I would like to do, and I'll go back to this again, sort out custody, sort out the monies that are being paid over due to custody. I think perjury, look, Jared, the whole lot needs stripping right back. It is extremely hard. And I think that you've got to allow for the parents, like I said, keep domestic violence out of the allegations, out of the family law court. That has to be sorted out beforehand. But also, you cannot deny the parent from seeing the child until the domestic violence, unless it is actually you actually see the physical abuse. See, what a lot of people don't understand is, and this is the general public, they think domestic violence is you've gone and bashed your wife or you've slapped him, all that type of thing. Domestic violence can be, I'm in fear. Or you've got to say, I'm in fear. Or you've got to send a text message and say, I want to see my child. I want to see my child. That's domestic violence.
Yep.
Or you've got to say, sorry, you're not going to you shouldn't be buying any more shoes. We've got to watch the money because we've got to buy the groceries and pay the rent.
Financially controlling me.
Correct. Or it's control.
You can't win.
So economic or whatever. Yeah. And you can't tell me that men are only responsible for this. I'm sure there's a lot of women out there telling their husbands, listen, mate, you can't go to the pub today and have a beer with your mates, or you can't go fishing, or you can't, go and spend money on your car. So that's all the same, exactly the same. That is domestic violence. And it's been abused. How do men deal with it? Look, I'd say to those men out there, keep a log, all right?
Yeah.
Comments that are said to you, keep a log, keep a book, and what's been said to you, and so that you can refer back to it, time of date, and you've done a logbook on this. Anytime that even if you're now in a relationship, in a marriage, right? You think they're absolutely wonderful. They'd never do the wrong by you. Well, I tell you what, I don't trust or believe anyone anymore. So if you've got children involved, you're in a relationship, just quietly, just simply, no, she told me this on that day, or he told me this on this day, and just keep a log of it, what you think, because that may be handy one day in court. So it works both ways. Perjury has to be dealt with in the court system. People must be responsible for what they're doing, because I'm very strong on this one, because they're quite willing to lie to destroy your life and your disconnection, and to push your disconnection with your children. And so they must be held to account.
Yeah, I think the DVO system needs changing too.
Yeah.
And by that I mean,
I have advocated that.
Yeah.
There should be 3 categories. So the first one is just if there's abuse, then it's stalking and, a little bit harder. And the third one is physical violence. So it should be put into a category.
Yep.
So once it goes before the courts, instead of just saying domestic violence, which isn't probably clear what it is, but just the word domestic violence, it should be category 1, 2, or 3. And then the judge would say, okay, this is 3, yeah, this is serious. No, that's category 1. No, that's not very serious. So they should not be stopped from seeing the children.
Yeah. What's crazy is once there's a DVO on you, the breach, which just puts you straight in prison. So, for example, the mother will put a DVO on the ex, the father, and then next thing she'll still text him though. Oh, hey, how are you? What are you up to this weekend? If he replies, oh, not much, breach. And like I've had guys that say, yeah, I had a guest, he went 5 times for replying to me. Not swearing, not threatening to kill, but because he replied, it was a breach. And I was just like, that's entrapment. You shouldn't be messaging him in the first place if you think your life's in danger. Why are you messaging him in the first place? So, yeah.
So a lot aren't aware of it. And I don't know what I can tell people out there. It's awfully hard. And if you're going through this at the moment, just step back. You know that you want to see your child. And I'll tell you, I did the same with one of my sons, all right? And she just wanted to deny him the right to see the child, who was only 4 at the time, 5 at the time, till he was 13, 14, right? That's what she told the courts. Guess what? My son has full custody because she didn't want to have the child anymore. So he's got full custody from 8 years. He's had him for 3 years now. So, I tried to tell him that. I said, she won't want to keep the child. And she didn't. This is what I'm saying, is that although she's got the custody over the child, but she doesn't have him, right? My son's got him and just sees him over school holidays. But it is this control thing. So I just say to people, look, don't go out and stress, to the max over it. Today's always better. And I'll tell you this, I was walking the streets of Maryborough and a fellow came out of the door and I bumped into him. And he said, "Oh, you're Senator Hanson." I said, "Pauline, yes, hi." And he was a bit upset and he said, "Oh, I'm going through the family law matters at the moment." And I said, "Yeah." So I had a bit of a chat to him, that type of thing. And he was completely lost. He said, "I've been my home dad, married for 20 years. All of a sudden she comes home and says, no, it's over. I've got 3 kids." And he said, "I read them. She was out doing her what she wanted to do. And he said, "I was the home dad. Now all of a sudden, taken away."
To the curb.
So anyway, I just helped him a little bit with some legal advice because I know this lawyer. So we actually helped him out a little bit. And I said, hang in there. He didn't know where the hell to go, who to talk to. That's the big problem too. Anyway, kept in touch with him and he said, "You're right." He said it all sorted out and turned around and is able to give him that little bit of assistance and advice. We've had people ring up my office where I've got a fantastic staffer there. And they've on the verge of suiciding, and she's just spoken to them, and some, I'm not saying she's not a counsellor or anything like that, but someone sometimes
listening.
just need a voice to say, "Hey, listen, take a breath, take a step back, and look at this." They've whole lives turned around, and now. One fellow in particular, he rings up every month and gives a rundown of where he's at in his life. He's got his kids now and sees the kids. So, things will turn around. Don't think that that's the end of it. And it's not just you, because if you do take your life, who's going to miss out? Your children. Your kids are not children for the rest of life. They will grow up. And I'm telling you from experience, my ex-husband was constantly putting me down to the children. I never did. Right? I believe they should have that connection with their father. He did. When they got to 13 and 14, and when they told him to pull his head in. They said, "I'm sick and tired of you, having to go at mum all the time. She never does it about you." And they said, "No more." And, they made up their minds that they had enough. So kids will actually figure it out.
Yeah. I do have a lot of fathers tell me that. It was hard. Like, I have a lot of more clarity now. I was struggling a lot. So my daughter lives in England now with her mother. And I knew that I needed to find purpose when she left. And that's how I came out the podcast. But I was still down in the dumps every day. But my current partner told me that she'll come back one day. So now my state of mind moving forward is, she might come back in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But when she does come back, do I want her to see her father down in the dumps that's just been struggling her life, or striving to move on? I don't forget her, but I'm
correct.
Yeah.
They don't know this. They don't know the circumstances, and a lot of them have been lied to over the years. And I mean, another one. She said, "Now I'm close to my father." She was late 20s. She said, "My mother put my father down." She said, "One day I found out the truth," and she's angry with the mother. And never forget this either, whoever's listening. You keep putting the parents' child, that is still their mother or their father. And you cannot do that, because the child will actually not like you for it. So deal with your own issues with your ex. Do not bring the child into it. Do not use the children as pawns. They will love you more for it if you didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you believe independent children lawyers and family report writers should be subject to external oversight?
Of course they should.
Yeah.
Some of these court reporters are just absolutely hopeless, and a lot of them are one-sided towards one lot. I know, I've experienced it, I've seen it.
Yeah.
So
my ICL, like, they get CC'd in every email.
It's an absolute rip-off as well. Okay, so what they pay them and for the work they do, that's the taxpayers' monies. And there's a lot of injustices, these court reporters, and, they can lean towards one parent over the other one.
I use the court-appointed family report writer. I've had other fathers use a private one, but some of them, I've had one father pay $6,000 for a report. I've had one father pay $12,000 for a report.
Yeah.
The lawyer that I had on the other day, she said she had a client that paid $20,000 for a report. Come on. Like, you sit there for half an hour, be watched with your child, and in question for an hour and a half, $20,000, and then the judge goes, "Oh, go get another one."
I tell you this, one court reporter was pulled up for doing it, using the same report in numerous cases.
You're kidding.
No.
Like a click, copy, paste.
So they caught, and people paying big money for that. And they were caught because of that.
Yeah.
So just be wary of that. They're not worth that amount of money, and just question it and don't pay that amount of money. All right. So I'd just say, sorry, not happening. If people stood up and said, I'm not paying you that ridiculous amount of money, they'd actually drop their prices. You're willing to pay it, they're going to keep charging for it.
How do we ensure women who are genuine victims of DV are protected while also stopping the system from being abused by those seeking strategic advantage? Probably that 3-step that you're talking about before.
But also perjury.
Yep.
So if you see, if you pull up the ones that are actually going to be fined for the lies for the perjury.
Yeah. If you make example out of one person, when I say make example, if someone got done for perjury, everyone else will like, oh shit, I better not lie because that lady just got sent 20 whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you start fining them or, charging them or in prison for your perjury, therefore others will think, I better not do it.
Yeah,
because
but I better
this
not
is
do
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to a father? We've probably already addressed this, but what would you say to a father who's lost everything? His home, access to his children, his savings, and is now contemplating ending his life? What hope can we give him today? We probably just touched on that before.
You did.
Yeah.
Just to say, my heart goes out to you. Never give up hope. You've always got someone around that cares and loves you.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world, I can assure you. You feel that you've lost everything, but there's always been someone who's been worse off than you. Think about the men and women that have gone to war and have fought on the, and lost their lives in times of war. So they've lost everything and their families lost everything. You've still got the ability to rebuild your life. Believe in yourself. Rebuild your spirit within yourself. Yes, it's been a blow. Yes, it's been bloody hard. We're only talking about material things. I'm talking about your house and your property. But at the end of the day, your children, remember, they won't have a mum or a dad if you're gone.
Yeah.
So think about your parents, the ones that love you. You're going to destroy their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I try and tell people, try and find the positive in the negative, which can be hard sometimes. But there's always someone else doing it worse. And
always have hope, and that's what I do in my life, my job. But I've always held out hope. I've got my inner strength, and I believe in myself. You believe in yourself, you can rebuild, and you don't take any notice of anyone else out there that wants to knock you. Put yourself up on a pedestal, and the only one that can pull you down is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you believe there's an active political or ideological resistance to recognizing men as victims of emotional abuse and coercive control?
Yeah. Do I think there's organisations that are pushing their own agenda?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I do. Feminist movements, different ones. These women and men. I've seen some of them that are actually pushing their own agenda because they've had a marriage breakup. They've had the worst done to them. So, they're going to go out there and push their own agenda. And I think it's wrong.
Yeah. It's crazy how common this is happening. Like someone said to me, do you reckon it's like 1 in every 2? I was like, no way. Like I'm at work and I reckon it's probably 8 out of 10.
It's happening around the world because I've done programs or spoken to people from, other countries. It's just got worse in Australia over the last 3 decades and it's happening more and more. So the marriage breakups are horrendous. There's more and more of it now. And the governments have made it easier for marriage breakups. With the assistance that they have, then you have the legal funding, then you've got the $5,000 that's given to women in domestic violence or breakup. Then you've got domestic violence holiday leave,
in the previous
10 days a year they brought that in, so everyone's claiming domestic violence and everything like that. It's ridiculous.
It was So what's crazy, I was working down in Victoria in a previous job, and when I checked the leave, I had 20 days. I I posted on my platform, and I had 20 days DV leave, and I was like, "What is this?" And I asked the boss. He just said, "Yeah, like to take the leave, all you'd have to do is just tell us that you don't have to submit any evidence." And I think 20 days, if you work Monday to Friday, that's 4 weeks. Like, I feel like there's all this encouragement and incentive. DV leave, DV, $5,000 bonus, and it's just like, so women's legal service we'll touch on later because, that's what I'll touch on. You've been labelled controversial by the media, but what's more controversial? Asking for fairness for fathers or pretending the crisis doesn't exist?
Controversial. What? Because I dare speak my mind.
I love
because
it.
I go against the system and stiff bickies. I don't care.
Yeah, good.
I've been honoured and privileged to hold the position as a Member of Parliament. Why am I there? To make the right decisions on behalf of the people of this country and on behalf of our nation for a better future for our coming generations. So I've been labelled that since 1996, and I really don't care.
Good, love it. Within Parliament, which minister actively supports men in the prevention of domestic violence and sexual assault? And who can we address or who can raise our concerns in Parliament? So I know Amanda Cam is the Minister for DV and Family Violence.
Yeah, she's state.
Oh, state, yeah.
That's
sorry, she's state. Yeah, she's Queensland.
So domestic violence really a state issue.
Okay.
So it's not federal. There's not one that I can talk about. I know Terry Young. He's was on the inquiry with me. Terry Young he's very much on side, and he's good. I like Terry. I believe that my new Member of Parliament for Western Australia, Tyron Whitten, he's a father of 3 daughters, and just briefly having a conversation with him, he'd be back me up, and he'd back up all this, I believe. And so does Malcolm Roberts, but it's never been a big issue for his.
Yep.
And I know that my new senator that will be announced next week will be very much on board with all this.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amanda Cam, thoughts on Amanda Cam?
Don't know anything about her. So I don't even know Amanda Cam. So I can't speak whether I agree with it or not.
What would be your best advice for someone looking to advocate for change through Parliament avenues, such as individuals to contact or effective strategies?
Vote One Nation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to need change with the government that we have now. They actually got rid of shared parental responsibility. They changed the legislation there, and I didn't see pushback from the Liberal Party at all with it. The Greens you won't get any support from them. They're a bunch of woke idiots, as far as I'm concerned. So will you get support from David Pocock or Jackie Lambie or Tammy Tyrrell on their voting record? I don't believe you will. So the only people that will push forward on this is One Nation. Yeah. And if we can get the shared balance of power after the next election in the Senate, where if we can get that in the Senate, we can actually stop legislation. That's only if the coalition and the Labor don't support each other on legislation, but we can have a big input. And therefore, that's where I can start pushing change in legislation to the Family Law Court if we have that balanced power in the Senate.
David Pocock, he went to Churchy. I went to State High. We played each other in football back in high school.
Well, I wish he'd stay with football.
Yeah.
He's too left for me, I'm sorry.
I didn't realise that until I started watching some of the stuff. I was like, oh, wow. Drawing on your experiences as a mother and a grandmother, what are your observations of the family court and its prevailing narrative?
Look, the Family Law Court, when Lionel Murphy changed the Act in the 70s, it was to streamline it and make it easier because it was very hard for divorce. And it's just gone completely out of proportion now. And yes, you can get divorces very easily, but, my concern is over property settlement, ownership. And what I'd also like to bring in is that what you own prior to your marriage is yours. It should not be split up. So if you've had that property before you got married, that's listed as that, and that's yours. It shouldn't be split.
Yep.
So what you make during your time together, fair enough, you can split that. Superannuation, if you had that part of superannuation before, it shouldn't be your partner's. I just want what's fair.
The whole super thing, I like who came up with that? Because let's just say me and my ex-partner, we've been working our whole life, 20 years. She's got her super, I've got my super. But it's like, if you've got your super, why don't you just keep your super and I'll keep my super? Like, I don't understand. How did that?
Correct.
Because
a lot of these women have actually spent the time at home. So you've been able to go to work and you've got your superannuation. So because they haven't been able to work and they've bred the kids, they weren't making any money. So that's why they feel that should split yours.
Well, do you reckon they should factor in like, okay, you haven't been a stay-at-home mum. You've worked 20 years of your life. You've worked 20 years of life since you've been together, raised your kids. You've worked evenly. You just keep your super and you keep your super.
Yeah, correct.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a bit of common sense, but yeah. Okay. Bettina Arndt mentioned that the Howard government introduced shared parental responsibility in 2006 and it was removed by the Albanese government in 2024. what was his reason for doing this? What was his aim? Like,
to give more rights to the female, right? To keep the men out of the life of the women, because most of the time women have that responsibility of children. So it was basically saying, no, we'll decide where do the kids go to school, where they have their holidays and all the rest of it. So it's basically giving the full responsibility onto that parent who has the custody of the children to determine everything.
There's countries over, I believe Germany's one. I got a friend in Germany like that. There's certain countries out there that's just straight 50-50 off the bat.
Yeah.
Like it should be, and that's how I think it should be 50-50 unless the other party for whatever reason doesn't want to, and then go from there,
Yeah, and work it out together as parents, what is in the best interest of the child.
Yeah.
And of course their attitude is, when I argued with this and spoke on floor of Parliament, well, it's in the best interest of the child. Well, it's in the best interest of the child to actually have, both parents in their life. You're not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everywhere you turn, we're constantly hearing about these issues within the broken family court system from various individuals, including lawyers, barristers, parents, yourself, Senator, and even retired family court judges like Adelaide barrister Stuart Lindsay. But why is no one willing to touch this topic? Media seems to be too scared to address it as well.
Jared, I'll go back to the fact. I spoke about it, domestic violence, well, didn't they come after me?
Yeah.
Right? So this is a cash cow for a lot of legal firms. A lot of money's been made out of this. That's why they don't want to change it. In the family law court hearing that I had, I spoke to a lawyer and I said, what do you charge a day? He said, 20,000. I said, what? How much? He said, 20,000 a day. I said, well, I wouldn't be able to afford you. And I said, no. I'm a senator, I'm a member of parliament. I said, I'm telling you, I couldn't afford you.
So I had this, people people think it's a conspiracy. Let's just say for the purpose of the scenario, from here on today, every couple that split, let's just say the father just walked, just for the purpose scenario. The father walked, he didn't fight for the kids. If she tried to put a DV on him, he just said, no worries, he just accepted it, didn't try to contest it at all. Well, who would be in court? No one's rocking up to the court to contest the DVO. No one's rocking up to the family court. So who's not getting paid? The judges, the law firms, the independent children lawyers, the supervision contact centers, the family report. So and it is a bit cash. And I got warned by actually a mate of mine who I served with. He's a police officer now. He said, don't talk about the DV because it's a cash cow and they'll come after. That was his cash cow. There's exact words. He goes, they'll come after you.
Yeah.
And I've spoken about it, and I've actually got heaps of support from police saying, mate, thank you so much. We are sick of dealing with this whole DV.
They are. A lot of the police are actually, they can't retain them in the police force because they're fed up with it, dealing with domestic violence. And actually, I was speaking to another cop who said, we were actually in the streets and it was a town, city in Queensland. Anyway, he said, there was a domestic violence. We got a call from this aged pensioner. She needed assistance. We were actually going out to see her. Next thing, we get a call of a couple arguing on the streets. Right? They were arguing.
And that was a priority. They had to go to that one?
Correct. So he said, we actually had to, although it had finished, the argument had finished, he walked off. They were still told they had to go and get a report from her, and the pensioner had to be second. And this is what priority is over domestic violence to anything else that they have to go and see to.
The financial control was, I remember when I went to DV trial, when me and my ex split, I paid, because she was from England, I paid 12 months rent up front for her. She picked it. It was all in her name. Two better, fully furnished in surface. I paid for it up front. It was $42,500. I know it was $42,500. The second I paid for it was, so there's a loophole in the immigration system. So she didn't go to the cops, she didn't go to lawyers. She went to the registry office, in the DV registry office at the courthouse, claimed that her life was in danger that day, got pushed through to court that day. They stamped off a TPO on me. So she went to the real estate agent and showed the TPO, which he could legally then break the lease. So I just paid $42,500. He transferred $35,000 of that to her savings account, and then she disappeared. And then got the $5,000 grant and went to the women's refuge.
I just want the men to be aware of this, and it was a scam, a loophole. And a lot of these men out there think, oh, well, I'm over Australian women, and go and find a bride from the
Thailand
Philippines.
or something,
Yeah, mainly the Philippines. And what they do is they get into the country as soon as they're here and they get a ring on their
DV.
finger. Within 24 hours, they claim a domestic violence order, which gives them the right to actually stay in the country. And they're using a scam. So please think hard and twice about it. They might tell you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread and never met a man like you before in their life. Okay, just wake up yourselves because you're going to go through another heartache with it all.
Thank you for saying that, because I've said it so many times. Yeah, the loophole in the immigration system is, and they actually have training videos for in Philippines. And when you come over, if your relationship breaks down with the Australian system before 2 years, put a DV on them, because you go straight to a protected visa.
Yeah.
And you'll just sit on a protection visa for 5 years until you become a permanent resident,
Yeah.
So
I'm sick of seeing these silly old buggers out there, and I can say it. These silly old buggers out there who think I want love in their life and come back with some bird who's 20, 30, 40 years younger than you and think you're the greatest things in sliced bread. Wake up. They're only using you till you actually get in the country and stay here, and then bring in their family and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want those people in the country.
Unfortunately, I had tunnel vision when I was in love with my my ex, and I actually told her about that loophole, and she goes, "Oh, I already know about it. My friend," so she has another friend from me. She goes, "Oh, my friend did it to this guy." That should have been a red flag in itself. Typical in love, tunnel vision, dismissed it.
Yeah.
Of course, what happened when we broke up? Boom. And she rushed it, because she actually got served with the DVO from me, but because she still had 10 days to go to court, she rushed through and got the TPO stamp from me. So for my followers always ask, how do we change the system, and what can me and all my followers do to affect change? Because I always get asked from my followers.
Look, I have put petitions on the floor of Parliament. I've argued the point. If I put up a private member's bill, it's going to go absolutely nowhere because I don't have the numbers. You got the Liberal Party, the Coalition, they're frightened to do anything about it. And they're all terrified of losing those supporters out there. If you attack the whole system now, until we have the numbers on the floor of Parliament, as I said, it will only come when we actually have the numbers on the floor of Parliament. I'm telling you now, One Nation is the only party. When I did that Senate inquiry, which I got up the Senate inquiry into it. Anyway, I wasn't happy with their recommendations that I actually brought down. I put a dissenting report to it, and I classified it about domestic violence, child support, and I named what had to change with it. Anyway, I spoke to the Coalition at that time. They were government, and I had the shared balance power then. And anyway, we came to agreement they were going to set up a task force with domestic violence and that type of thing. And anyway, after the election, which Albanese won in 22, right, I said to the former minister, I said, "But you set up the task force, didn't you?" She said, "No, we didn't." I said, "You're kidding me. You told me you would. They never did it." And she said to me, she said, "I'm sorry, we never listened to you." See, it's not high on their agenda. And they'll just say and do whatever they need to do to win the votes without really understanding the impact it's having on people's lives out there. You're going to have a lot of future psychological problems from children. And I've read reports on it, especially boys. Boys are better to have the connection with the dads, and there's not so many psychological problems that they have moving forward in life. And the separation of the two, kids don't understand. Where's mum? Where's dad? I want mum. I want dad, It's really an impact on the children. And that's where, especially after you separate and divorce, you're best to work together to share that and slowly have that break between each other so the children get used to it. They're in a different home, and, it's so hard on the children.
Yeah. 2 questions ago. Do you believe that women who obtain a domestic violence order, DVO, and claim the associated $5,000 incentive should be required to repay it if their allegations are later found to be fabricated, indicating a misuse of the court resource?
I don't think they should get it in the first place.
Yeah, I was saying.
I'm totally against it because this is an incentive to actually go out there and make false allegations until you prove to me that your allegations are true and not just on a piece of paper. Why should the taxpayer be paying them $5,000? I can understand circumstances and some people that they need to get structure and get help. But there's a lot of people go through might be, say, they've had an accident or whatever. Does the government pay them $5,000 to relocate or move on with their life, that type of thing? Why is the taxpayer all the time forking out? And I don't believe that a lot of these women are doing. Who's to say it's not a scam? Who's to say that they break up for the short term? We can get $5,000 out of this. And listen, mate, we're going to get together again.
I've
6
had
months
some
down
people
the track.
comment and tell me that's exactly what they did. I've had people say, yeah, we just did it to get the grant. Now we're still together.
Yes.
Because no one, neither of them going to complain to the police.
Correct.
Yeah. I've had one guy come and say, yeah, his ex did it 4 or 5 times. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But,
No,
yeah.
there's too many scam people out there that scam, and I'm sick and tired of the taxpayer picking up the bill all the time. When I've got people that can't put a roof over their head, living in cars, cost of living, and, the poverty that we have happening, and the government keeps providing for these scams, there is assistance and help that you can. And there's another thing that I managed to get. When there's a breakup with it, women have shelters to go to, women and their children. There's not for the men. And I actually managed to get $7 million given at that time.
Oh, did you?
Yes. So I got some funding for the men's shelter to help them with it. But it's always the women all the time.
Well, that's my next question, actually. So why is there such a massive dedicated funding for women's legal service, but not for men? Similarly, why are the refuge shelters for women escaping DV, but none for men?
Because women are the poorest sex. Don't you understand that?
Yeah.
We've got to look after the women. We've got to look after those poor, helpless little souls out there who can't stand on their own 2 feet. And some of these women will actually bash their husbands around if you're honest about it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that give their husbands a bloody hard time. Yeah. And the men, I hear from so many of them, they go to the police and they say, oh, the domestic violence, oh,
toughen up.
Toughen up, precious. Yep. And you see,
right.
Yeah. And here we are constantly, women have had to fight for the right. When you look at the war years, around that time, women went into manufacturing and they had to take up the jobs that men didn't have. But, prior to the war, and I think it was just after, if you were a married woman, you weren't allowed to work. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So women never got the vote in Australia till, 1901 under the Constitution Federation, they had the vote. They had the vote prior to that in South Australia. So women have had the vote and led the world on many issues in Australia. So they've actually have grown. But over the period of time, we've actually raised women up, they get the same pay. There's a whole push for same work, same pay. They get it. The only difference is because they take time off for maternity leave or have babies, that type of thing, they're not on the same pay because they're not working. So therefore, they're not ending up with the same pay and same superannuation. So women are getting the same pay for the same work. That is the case. And now we're pushing women in positions of, we want more women in politics, we want more women in positions, we want more women as CEOs, we want more women here, there and everywhere. So women are getting their rights left, right and centre all the time. And what we've done is we're suppressing the males all the time and we're not giving them the opportunities. I've got no problem with women, but it should be based on merit. Don't think they're the helpless ones all the time and then want to hold them up here as if they're the best ones for the job. Be fair right across the board. So whether it's in the family law courts or whether it's a member of parliament, whatever, be fair right across the board.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I have a set of standard conclusion questions that I normally ask my guests, but they're tailored for the father that's been through the journey. But if there's 2 I could ask from you, there's 2. Actually, I'll ask you this one. Just tailor it as best as you can. If you're in a room with every single person you'd met or interacted with on this journey, who is the first person you'd be drawn to and why? And that journey could be your family court journey or watching your son go to court, or maybe just from the start. Normally I ask that for the father that's been through the family court, because some guys, I'd actually want to talk to.
I've got a room full of people, I don't know who they are.
You don't know who they are?
Which person would I be drawn to to go and speak to them?
Yeah.
Well, someone who looks interesting to me. If they look dull and boring, sitting there with a sour face, although I might say, have you had a hard day? What's your problem? So really it's interaction. It's like if you walk in a room, if you make eye contact with someone, it depends on how
energy.
how they look, or give a smile, or if they're,
Yep.
not so. Yeah, it's that's a hard one. Yeah.
I'll finish on a funny one. I always ask my guests this for the purpose of the scenario. You're on death row and the guard comes and asks you what you want for your final meal, drink, and dessert.
I love my meat pies.
Oh, meat pies, are you? Yeah, righto.
I love my meat pies. Yeah. So anyway.
What about drink and the sweet tooth?
Yeah. Oh golly, I do a lot of my own baking anyway. So anyway, my own cooking.
What would be your go-to dessert wise?
Oh geez, this is hard. I don't know.
I'm sticky date pudding.
I still like my gin and tonics.
Oh yeah.
So I'll have a gin and tonic and a sweet tooth. I suppose a piece of chocolate, or I still, cake or a pie or something. Yeah, cake. I don't know. That's awfully hard for me to say which sweet.
Yeah. I could speak to you for hours about this, but I know you've got a busy day ahead of you as well. But is there anything we'd miss before I wrap up? Anything?
I think we've covered
there's
quite a lot with everything. You've asked me about telling these people out there, and I want to appeal to, the women out there.
Please.
And men, because there are men out there that have custody of the children and full custody, and to the women as well. You have your differences, and I've had my split ups with my marriages and that type of thing. And yes, it's hard, and you're angry, and you think, what has happened? And they're an absolute bastard, and I've had enough of them. You walk out the door and you start up a new life. I just feel that you're not only walking out the door yourself, but you're doing it on the kids as well. The kids never asked for this.
Yeah.
They've, as far as they're concerned, most of the time they love their mum, they love their dad, they want to have that time with them. And you might have your differences, but don't do it to them. And as I said, reports that I've read, it really does have a big impact on the children. Try and work it out and talk to each other. I'm not saying you have to get back together again.
Yeah.
But get over it and just try and do what in the best. If you really, really love your children and care about your children, why drag them through the courts? Why drag yourself through the court system? Why lose everything that you've both worked hard for? Because you're going to miss out as well. And all you're doing is feeding it to the lawyers. You're just, you're getting your assets, your money and everything. You're just burning it to pay them. And at the end of the day, what are you going to get out of it? Really? Put your hatred, behind you and move forward with a positive attitude that I'm doing this for my children, what's in the best interest of my children, for myself, and move on from there. And I'd say that from experience, from knowledge, from telling my own children that and everything like that. You think you're going to win, you won't win. I can assure you, you won't win. And the people that you think you love the most, you're actually destroying them.
Yeah, it's sad. I think about it. My daughter, her future was set up, but I sold everything fighting for her just to be in her life. And in the end,
and
lawyers
don't think
won.
you can buy it.
No.
If you think that if you hand over all this and you hand over all the money there, that it's going to work in your favor, I'm telling you, it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah.
And you're being conned. Think twice about it. I know you're trying to do everything the best that you possibly can, but at the end of the day, you're going to be conned. And the more that you lose and the hurt and pain because you never got it at the end after you've handed it over and you still haven't got it, that's going to dig deeper into your heart. And you think, what the hell's for? And then at the end, then you're going to be so down and out, depressed, that you're thinking, why should I still be here?
Yeah. I've had one father lawyer real quick on and I have to agree with him now that I've been through this system, but I said, do you have any advice for any fathers out there? And he said, listen, if you go to a breakup, he goes, you're not going to agree with what I'm about to say, but he said, just walk. Because if you try and fight for the kids, you're going to get emotionally hijacked, you're going to go and sell this, sell that, you're going to end up and if he had said that to me before I was finding my daughter, I would have told him to piss off.
Yeah.
Because I'm in that driver's seat, no. But now that I've been through it.
My own son said, he said, Mum, I have to prove to my son at least I fought for her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's the attitude. And I said, not by this, because you're destroying yourself and you're no benefit to them in the long run. Yeah.
And I feel if I told a father now that, they'll probably tell me the same answer that I told that person back, is piss off. Because unfortunately, I think these fathers are going to go down the long road to find out the painful answer that, you know, I found out coming out the back end of it, which is you up shit creek without a paddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Senator Hanson, on behalf of the Broken Fathers podcast, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day and coming on, answering my questions. Not only do I appreciate it, but I know all my followers are. And
Jared, look, it's been an honour and a pleasure to be here. As I said to you, it's not just came here because of of a member of parliament, but I come here also as a mother that's been affected by this myself. I've been through the experience, and if I've helped anyone in any small way to open up their eyes, or just listen to my experience or what I've said is the case, and if I've helped you in any way, it's been well worth it. And I really care about these people out there and what you're going through. Just hang in there, and if I can, help at any time, please do not contact my office for legal advice. We are not a legal centre. There's nothing we can do really, and I'll push to get legislation changed, but only the courts, because when it comes to a member of parliament, there has to be separation of powers between a parliamentarian's office and the court system. We cannot do anything for you there. So it's no point telling me what the judgments were. I cannot do anything for you. That can only be fought in the court system. But, I'm going to try and to fight for a system that's going to be fairer for everyone.
I know for a fact that this episode's going to not only help, but save a lot of fathers out there that are watching. So I wish you nothing but good health moving forward. And I hope you build the Prime Minister of Australia one day.
Well, thank you. Never happened, Jared. But anyway, thank you.
All good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers.